Welcome back to Serving Up Success with a Splash. You all know me as AKA the Corporate Cockroach. And I've got my friends, colleagues, and co-hosts.
Angie Snowball, the Renaissance woman.
And Dr. Nawtej Deselect, the strategy doctor. Bruce, that was a great Southern accent you did there, Southern American accent.
First time I know, he's like mixing it all up.
Mixing it all up. And tell us about the drink, why don't you?
Well, first the topic. This is a hot one. This is how personal should you get at work? Or stated another way, how much of you belongs in the workspace? Where do you go from that human side to TMI? We're going to have that discussion tonight. But before we do that, we have the Boundary Bourbon Smash. So first of all, everybody, cheers. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, the like button, anything you can do. But again, we're very grateful for everyone for joining us. Things are starting to explode, and it's all because of you. We love you. Now,
so tell your friends.
Yes. And pretty soon we're going to have a little bit of contest, if you will, in which you can read free prizes if you get people to subscribe.
Yes.
But anyways, that Boundary Smash, you can check that out on our YouTube page to get the ingredients. But is it good? All right, so we're going to dive right into this whole subject of how personal should you get at work. And what I'm going to start with is this thing, what I would say is being authentic versus oversharing. And, the first thing I'm going to say is being authentic doesn't mean you go unfiltered. I have to remind myself of that all the time. And just a couple of insights. I'm as old as dirt. So if you go back in time, the workplace kind of shifts back and forth on this issue. If you go back into the late 70s, the 2 martini lunches, we all smoked everywhere, told really, really, really off-colored jokes. That was a time when anything went. And thank God they cleaned that up a little bit because one, it's no longer just all men in the workplace.
Yeah.
Lots of women were coming in at that time. Not that they didn't bring their fair share
you hang out with me, Bruce.
of just, let's just say off color.
You hung out with the right people. That's what was going on.
But was a bit unhealthy too. And then we somewhere into the early 90s, we got all kind of puckered up and just way too formal. I hated that period worse than I hated the other. And now we're kind of moving back. So just a couple of insights. Authenticity actually, builds trust when it's done with purpose, not just on impulse. That's one insight. And you know what? You know what I learned? People that overshare, they do it really out of the need to be liked more than to add value. Big mistake. So a couple of, I'm going to give one example or two examples. A leader that shares their personal failure in a meeting just to let everybody know mistakes are going to happen. That's really powerful, and that's authentic. A leader coming into the meeting room, pissed and moaning about his recent divorce and what up their spouse is, that's misplaced vulnerability. So those are just two examples. So let's cut to it. Angie, have you ever shared something at work that you later thought, oh shit?
Yeah, I mean, almost everybody has at some point, right? And a lot of this is like, as you get older, you get wiser, right? So, especially when I was younger, and I can't really remember like a story I could tell you, but I know when I was younger, we were all buddies. We all went out after work. We all went, and then bringing it back to work, that line was always, fuzzy. So I think there was a lot of times that I shared too much with someone. But I also don't know if that's the right way to say it. I think I shared too much with the wrong people. Like I too easily trusted someone that they had a line because I had a boundary. Like outside of work is outside of work. And if you want to talk about you're going through a messy divorce outside of work, I'm your friend outside of work. Inside of work, I don't want to hear her name here because I'm trying to get work done. So I think that was a bigger problem than actually having times where I overshared or let someone overshare with me. It was like making sure that person, I could trust them, one, and also that they could share boundaries. Because I'll tell you this too, and I know there's a lot of women out there that might be mad at this, but they're probably also secretly going, damn, she's right. I mean, women like to gossip. We just do. And I'm not saying men don't, but it's really easy to be sitting around. I mean, think of it. There's a stereotype about us at the nail salon and the hair salon for a reason. You know what I mean? We sit around, we like to talk and we like to tell stories. And I think that sometimes we don't even realize that we're oversharing something someone else shared with us. Because you just get caught up in the moment. And at work, that can be really ugly. You don't want that to hurt your reputation. You tell somebody something in confidence, and then, the next day your boss knows that you're getting divorced or you're dating an idiot or whatever, right? And that hurts your reputation. You're like, I'm still smart. You just have bad choice of men. So I think that's more like who rather than what.
That's pretty good. Dr. D, what about you in regards to how does a leader determine what's appropriate or what's not?
So I think this is one of these shows where I know less. Okay. And so I'm really excited about this being finding out and being educated. So in my opinion, because I don't think I've come across people who overshare too much. Maybe there's a bit of oversharing about, you get a leader that forgets to have lunch, but remembers to tell absolutely everybody about it. That's minor oversharing, right? I forgot to have lunch. Well, okay, if you forgot to have lunch, forget to tell us that you didn't have lunch as well. So it's minor. But your question was, how do leaders, decide? And I don't think I made a decision. I just think it was from my upbringing. It was from my environment. Remember, I'm British, so we share less. The culture here is that we share less. So I don't think that I can have an answer to how leaders decide about this. I think it's just from their environment and who they naturally become. One thing I will say, though, is that there are probably people, leaders and people who overshare, a small proportion perhaps, who overshare strategically. It's for a purpose, not the mission, but for their own purpose. And there's oversharing going on there. But otherwise, I think people overshare because that's their natural disposition, and people who don't overshare, they have a natural propensity to not overshare. That's probably what I think.
It's so funny you brought up culture because I started working in Belgium when I was 23 years old. And I came from a farm in Kentucky. I had no idea what the hell I was doing, what was going on, right? So I'm meeting, it was a coffee thing over there in Belgium. It was a German guy. And we're just kind of talking at coffee. I'm like, hi, I'm Angie. And he's already given me a look just for saying, hi, I'm Angie, right? He's like, why are you talking to me? This is not talk time. This is, I'm like, hi, I'm Angie. I just moved over from the States. And I was like, I'm married. And he goes, I don't care. Like, just like, and he looked at me and he goes, I don't care. And then he's like, why are you talking to me? Like, he just flat out asked me. I was so like just shattered as this bubbly little 22-year-old person that wanted to make friends. I was like, holy shit. So I go back, I tell my boss, he goes, oh, sweetie, you're going to have to go to some culture classes. Stat. So,
Oh my.
That's
but
hilarious. That's hilarious. You're basically telling him everything. Oh, I'm
yeah,
married.
well, I just
Oh, I
want you to know.
hitchhiked when I
Yeah.
was 15. Oh, I went to a party. I had a drink when I was 16. I shouldn't have done maybe,
Yeah,
blah, blah,
I
blah.
was
And he's
like, I was
saying,
ready
I
to tell
don't
him
care.
everything.
I still don't care. And I
Yeah.
care less now.
Yeah. Even when as far as they
That's
weren't
hilarious.
talking to me. So, yeah. But I learned that's another part of it too. Like you said, cultures is a huge part of how much you can share
Yeah.
and not share, and where you share and don't share.
Yeah.
You know, I feel especially Germans. I've just had a lot of experience there, but they're very good at the line between work time and playtime, and they're
Yeah.
completely different human beings.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, Angie, I think you and I are very similar. I do err on the side of sharing too much, but like you, I've learned to kind of establish boundaries. I kind of come with a warning label on my forehead in certain situations. But you also made it clear, know your audience. So
Yeah.
it's a true story. During all the political correctness bullshit, I'm going to just call it out.
I love it.
I had a table in our cafeteria, and the place we worked in, our corporate headquarters, was gorgeous. It was set in the woods, but there was a table reserved for Bruce. People knew who I was. And let's just say it was earmarked the politically incorrect table.
It does
So
not surprise me.
if you were with HR, you stayed away. If you were easily, offended, you stayed away. But I got to tell you, the laughter that came out of that corner of the cafeteria was phenomenal, because that was a place we'd go to take a break, drop all of our professionalism, all the weight that was on us that day, and just have fun. Not disrespectful, we were still sincere and respectful, but we did probably talk about things that typically you wouldn't. But we knew the audience, the boundaries were established,
Yeah.
everybody was aware, and Bruce didn't get fired.
Oh my gosh. You know what though? That's also, I think, a good thing. Again, you have to know your audience, but we had that table too. It was the Brandon table. And Brandon, if you're listening, you're going to love this, but he was the same guy, but I needed that. I laughed so hard. I needed that to get through my day. I wouldn't go out to lunch hardly ever because I wanted to be at the Brandon table, and there were, 10, 15 of us that would go and just have a good time talking. And it also helped us work better together because it helped us
Yes.
build trust as a team. It helped
Yes.
us know each other. It helped us, with some people, I knew I could cut through all the crap. I could just go there and say, Alyssa, I need this right now. She's like, okay, no questions, no answers. And then other people that were not so involved with that, it would take me half hour to go through the whole process. I
Right.
need this because, well, I did that. No. So in some ways, that team building, it is a good thing to be personal at work. And I remember teaching some of the Germans that stuff when they came to work in the United States. That was part of English lessons with me, was teaching them culture lessons. And I was like, look, these people are going to talk to you about kids' soccer games, and you can't tell them to shut the fuck up. You're going to have to say, wow, that's nice. I was like, you don't have to tell them, you don't have to go out of your way, but this is going to happen to you because it's part of American culture to share
Yes.
something. And you're going to have to. And it was so funny. Like, eventually we'd have some of the guys would come. It was so awkward. They'd be like, this weekend I went to a bar and I heard a man play music. And like he was given, that was his personal thing. And so the Americans were like, what is wrong with this guy? He was trying so hard to be personal at work. But again, that culture shift was so hard for them to, one, be able to do it, to get used to it, and what to do. Small talk is a hard thing for a lot of people when they come over to a new country because they're not used to it culturally.
Can I try a line on you two? Can I try a sort of line, a similar line to what you just said, Angie? And I just want to see your reaction as Americans.
Okay.
Bruce, Angie, it's so good to see you after the weekend. This weekend, I must tell you, I filled my car up with petrol twice.
See,
You're not
that's
sitting
funny
at my
to me.
table. You're, you're not,
You're
you're
not,
not
you don't
sitting
get
at
a
my
ticket to the
table.
Bruce table.
You know, I'm quite hard. I thought, don't laugh when you're saying it. Wait till the end. Wait till the end. Say the line, then laugh. And I did it. It worked out.
Oh, that's so funny.
You know, the other thing I'm going to add, Angie, and I'm going to turn it over to you to take us down another path potentially, but you hit something that's critical. The best teams that I've worked on or been a part or even had the honor to lead, where we had extreme success, like 89% growth or a 75% increase in productivity, where it was like breakthrough, transformational. Those were teams where we understood one another on a very personal level, not inappropriately. We still had boundaries, but we knew each other's kids' names. We knew a little bit about our fears, our passions, things we disliked. Remember, you'd have the label of, well, that's his work wife.
Yeah.
Well,
Uh-huh.
I had to be, if you're listening, which I highly doubt it, because it's me, but she was referred to, and she was. She kept me in line. She was much smarter than I was. But we had those kind of relationships. And when those teams went into battle or undertook, oh my God, we just came together. Even when bad things happened, because we had that level of understanding of one another, there was trust. We knew
Yeah.
we had each other's back. The old saying, we had photos. you know, there's no facade. And
No.
man, did we make hay when the making was good. All right,
And
I'm done.
I think
Angie?
especially, I will, I promise I'll go on, but I just wanted to say again to Bruce, he said when things go bad. I think especially when things go bad,
Hmm.
if you've got those relationships, because there's that tension, nobody's got their defenses up, their guard up. You're just there to solve the problem. I mean, things went
Yes.
wrong. Let's just fix it. My work husband, Rob Schmidt, does listen. So shout out to Rob. But I worked with him. I mean, Jack was 4, so 20 years ago, and we still go to Bengals games together. God love us for messing with that mess, but we still do things together. He was at my wedding and whatever. But Rob and I did incredible things at Ford because we could cut through the crap
Yep.
and just go,
Yep.
especially when things were bad. Especially. So anyway, moving on. Another part that we wanted to touch on about how personal to be at work. I mean, I guess the first question is, why do you want to be personal? So we already touched on it's good for team building and trust, but I think a lot of people want to do that because you want to be empathetic. You want to show people that you understand, that you're listening, that you heard. So I feel like that's somewhat a driver for why people share personal information. And I think one thing to talk about is there is a massive confusion right now, and as an English teacher, it bothers me, between empathetic and sympathetic. So empathetic is actually very, very hard to be, because empathetic is I am feeling your feelings. I have been through. So yes, if you've been through the same situation, you can share that, yes, I went through that and this is how I feel, but you don't know how they feel. You have to listen to how they feel. So sympathetic is what happened to you sucks. And I'm here for you and I want to hear what's wrong and I want to give you an ear and be supportive for you. So those are two different things. And I think that's important if your goal is to be empathetic, that you're paying attention to that. You're sharing things for the reason of teaching, helping, and supporting. You're not sharing things just to make people feel better, because sympathy is make you feel better. Empathy is there to support and walk by your side and try to be in your shoes as much as you can. So,
Angie, that is such a great introduction to this section. I'm talking over you because I just want to get that out. That was a brilliant 3-4 minute sketch there. Brilliant, fantastic. Just that explanation between empathy and sympathy and what value you attach to each. Brilliant. cut through description, definition. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, good. I'm glad you feel that way because I'm going to ask you the first question.
Oh, okay.
Now, speaking of those two things, have you, in your experience, found a time that you had to be sympathetic or a time that you had to be empathetic? And how did you handle that differently?
Oh my God, that is such a colossally brilliant question. I'm sure there have been times where I've um, been empathetic and sympathetic. I think my natural disposition is to be empathetic, is to sense or perceive if somebody, either by their language or their body language, um, what the difficulty is, and then I like to give them permission to be able to speak about it. I like to be able to give them permission to be personal and vulnerable, and try to make it safe for them to do that. And yeah, and I think mostly I would say, if I can be immodest, I'd say mostly I succeed in permitting people to share their voice, and they feel safe about sharing their voice. I think probably that's the case, but you two will know better than me.
No, I think you're I definitely, if someone said, give me 3 words to describe Dr. D, that's one of them that I would have chosen. I think you are very, very, very good at that. And then, not that you're not, Bruce.
I'm
but
not.
No,
well,
but
no,
yeah, but you're a rock star. Literally, you're a rock star.
and you are in a different way. I think that's
Mm.
another thing to talk about. So Dr. D is empathetic in a way that we are all expecting and we're used to. He's listening, he's hearing us, he's very perceptive, and then he will ask questions to follow up and make sure that we are being heard and whatnot. But Bruce is still listening. He's still paying attention. You do it in a whole different way. You're more actionable, I feel like. I feel like when Bruce is out there being empathetic and doing things, he's like, hey, let's try this. So that's my question for you, Bruce, is I'm sure that as a leader, when you saw people struggling or needed support or whatever, I'm sure you stepped in and helped them. Now, whether it was sit down and hold their hands and have a talk and share your life, I don't really see that, but I don't know. So how did you handle as a leader when
Oh,
someone on your team was going through something? Did you tend to share? How much did you share? Were you more empathetic, sympathetic, or let's just do something?
yeah. Wow. This is a tough one. Um, I don't know whether by accident or on purpose, but as I've mentioned in the past, I was often put into a leadership role when it dealt with significant change. And ultimately, that change would lead to people losing their positions. And that happened to me under various titles. It always seemed like I came in when change was needed, and they needed somebody to come in and, as tactfully as possible, make that change happen, not a choice. And so, while there were times, I think my reputation at one point, they kind of thought of me because of that, because those roles were very much associated. If Bruce showed up, oh, damn. Oh, damn. If he's involved, oh, God. And so that hatchet man. However, I can honestly say I was actually coached by HR, because deep down, if there was an individual that did a great job, always getting better, just a great person, and I had to have the conversation that, your position is going away, introducing the separation package. There were times, at least on 3 occasions, I was the one that broke down. I mean, I couldn't take it. I didn't feel good about it. And, you know, what happened is those people then, of course, would go spread the word. Bruce isn't the biggest asshole you thought he was. You know, this
That's
guy,
hilarious.
and it was hard. It was very hard. But I've also been in situations where, I had to, while I had the empathy, I'm not a therapist. And God, you don't want me as your therapist because you really, you're in deep
I
shit.
don't know. Laughter's the best medicine, right? I think I'm good at that.
Unless we're at a bar. After a couple, I get pretty good.
You're
But
good.
no. And so the other thing I ran across of just now the opposite is I'd be in a meeting and all of a sudden there would be tears and such. And that would bother me, but I was heavily coached that just hand them a Kleenex because sometimes they're doing that to redirect.
Yeah.
And so it's for me, it's a tightrope between not having enough empathy and becoming a dumping ground,
Yeah.
for
Mm.
people. And the reality is I really can't when your back's against, I can't hide my emotions. If I don't feel like this is fair or I wish there was another solution, it eats me alive. And so that was the one part of my my career that I didn't enjoy. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
You
so
know,
Bruce,
I
I
walk
Bruce,
that fine line. On the outside, I definitely come across as being fairly, um, I could be intimidating. On the inside, oh my God, I feel
you
it.
giant teddy bear.
Yeah.
Bruce,
That's
Angie,
what people
can I just,
found out later in my career. That's what they found out.
Angie, can I piggyback on what Bruce said? Because
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever been told this, Bruce, but just in the short, year that I've known you, um, it's over a year actually, isn't it? It's 15, 16 months. But in that period, what's come across to me, and I don't know if you've ever been told this because I think people would make probably misinterpret you. I think your ability to navigate things is as good as anyone I've ever seen. It
Well,
really is. You are a really big figure at navigating any sort of difficulty. And you talked about tightrope. I think you are very good at walking this tightrope between sharing too much, giving too much, and not giving enough. It's really. I say this. I've just noticed this, and I think you're an inspiration to me in this way. This is a real skill you have. So
Yeah, I think so
congratulations. I don't know
too.
if anybody's ever told you
well,
that, but
that's
you're
because
so
you've been
good.
introduced to Bruce 4.0. You never met 1.0, and you don't
Yeah,
want to.
yeah, yeah.
No, I think
Keep
that's a
that point
that's a valid point.
out of the glass window.
Yeah, I mean, that's a valid point. I love the 4.0 thing because if you asked me this every 5-year increment of my career, there would have been a different answer to whether or not I
Yep.
was sharing too much or not enough and back and
Yes.
forth. And the pendulum swung too hard sometimes the other way. And I think we're still navigating that. Before I hand it over to Nawtej, I just wanted to quickly also say, because we've been focused on business and we are life, career, and business, but this is obviously a big a situation in life as well. Like, the friend going through divorce, the loss of loved ones, the things people go through. At what point do you overshare, undershare, whatnot? And I think authenticity is where this comes in. It's a big part of empathy and whatnot, is how much do you share? I think what's important is if you don't have something to share, you don't have to. I think that's another thing is like people almost like invent or they'll say, I know how you feel. I'm like, the hell you do. You didn't
Yeah.
lose your brother at 41. You didn't, or whatever. I mean, just don't tell me that. Just say, I can't imagine how you feel. Do you want to talk about it? Maybe you don't always have to share. What's your experience with that, guys, personal life wise? Do you feel like, how do you handle those situations? And what would you tell people that aren't sure what to do?
Well, I've come to
Bruce, you go first.
realize, yeah, I've come to realize that, some people are just private, and I want to give them permission to be that.
Yes.
I don't
Thank you.
want them
That's what I wanted you to say.
uncomfortable because, there's a couple of us like Angie and Bruce, you know, that are, heckling and sharing, and they're like, oh, I don't want to make them uncomfortable. It's okay. It's okay to keep it private. If you're not comfortable with it, don't do it. Because if you try to do it, as Angie pointed out, it's not going to come across real sincere or authentic. It's
Yeah.
okay. And for people like us, we have to recognize that and give permission. It's okay to stay private. That's why we
Yes.
get along
I
with
love
each other.
it.
Dr. D,
Perfect.
that's why we love him. We gave him permission. No, I just, after a
Do you know,
bottle of wine, look out.
He just sits there
Okay,
and is like,
I
I'll
got to
let you
shut up
do it.
now.
Shut up.
yeah, God, honestly, can you guys just be quiet a second? Um, Actually, I'm really enjoying this. I wish you could go on for another hour or so because this is really, I'm really learning from you two. Because I probably don't pay enough attention to it, but the one place I do pay attention to this is culture, as you know, and I think I want to talk. Culture is such a big topic, and Angie's going to be covering culture in the future. I'm going to be covering culture, but I want to think about culture in this context from the leader's point of view, because leaders create the culture. A leader who is gossipy, overshares what other subordinates are doing, is going to create a culture of oversharing and gossip.
Yeah.
A leader who's too guarded is going to create a culture which is literally quiet as well as metaphorically quiet. People are going to be sitting at desks, not speaking. Um, people are, and people, that means people are going to be sitting at desks and metaphorically not speaking and not innovating and not doing great things. So just in this, for this week's topic, I'm only going to talk about culture from the leadership perspective. And Bruce, I got to ask you this question: how do organisations create cultures where people feel safe to be anything they want to be?
Well, so I happen to come from probably one of the best organizations in America, and every year they're still being recognized. You do have to set boundaries. Um, but at the same time, the emphasis they placed is everybody needs to be seen and heard. This isn't kumbaya. We all sing in harmony and we all agree. We don't want that culture. We want dissent. We want varying opinions, experiences. We want real diversity. And so if you're going to have that, you need to set boundaries. And there's like three questions that when you're dealing, we want people to develop strong working relationships that, yes, you get to know one another on a personal level. But at the same time, when you're with people and you're sharing, is it relevant? Is it helpful? Is it appropriate? If any one of those answers is no, you're about to tip over the boundaries we've established. Um, and so boundaries, and make sure everybody's comfortable being seen and heard with boundaries.
Great answer, Bruce. And Angie, I've got a more difficult answer for you. I'm really sorry.
Oh,
Difficult
thank you.
question.
Thank you, Dr.
Um,
D.
I feel really bad. I should have asked Bruce this question, really. But Angie, it's you. What are you going to do where the culture's established and it's gone off the rails? It's worse than oversharing. People are using oversharing as a form of, as a weapon. They've weaponized oversharing, so it turns into gossip. Can that ever be pulled back?
So that's really interesting. I actually got called in to be a culture coach for a facility where this happened. And it was so toxic. I mean, in so many ways. And I'm going to say that they managed it. We did it. But we put together very structured workshop process. Like we went through the basics. We went through why this is toxic. We went through what you should be doing. We went through how to build up boundaries. It was 8 weeks. We went through an 8-week course of things that we could do. And yes, they made it happen. Yes, they turned it around. It was not easy. And not everybody made it through that. There were people that did leave, not fired, but just as we went through that process, realized they were not going to thrive in a culture, basically a healthy culture. But there was a lot of like negativity, and you're like, oh, I can't do this if I don't know the people I work with. Like, I didn't say that. We just didn't tell them how many times you slept with somebody last week. I mean, that's all we're saying here is hold that back, you know? So, I mean, they were really getting crazy. So I think it can be done, but it was really structured and involved a lot of almost like academic concepts that we went through and really deep diving. And again, not everybody made it. So that's why I think, to your point, that is so important to be established early on.
So,
I got to just
that's an amazing. Just 1 second. Let me just. I want to say something because I want to just really nail what Angie just said, and because Angie said we did not. I did not know about that about you, did I, Angie?
No, he didn't.
We have never.
I don't even know if he knows I do that. Yeah.
I can't believe that. I just want to say that because people who are listening in and watching, they may think, oh, Nawtej set Angie up. He knew that she'd done that. No, I had no idea. As I was asking the question, I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to trip Angie up. What a terrible person I am. Awful person. I should have asked Bruce. Trip Bruce up instead, blah, blah, blah. And so that was an amazing answer. That was really amazing. But well, God, you guys need to go on a podcast. Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh, yes, we are.
Well, the only thing I was going to add, and because it is a great point, and we all know Angie's extremely relatable, so that doesn't surprise me at all that they would put her in the driver's seat around culture. But the other point, Nawtej, to your point, organizations that really develop a strong culture, the benefit is people will instantly deselect, because if it's a strong culture, they're going to recognize it. If you don't have a strong culture, people just kind of flip-flop all over the place. A strong culture, it's nice because people that don't fit will deselect.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys were talking earlier about personal lives. I'm so lucky. I've got great, amazing friends who don't overshare, and but they're vulnerable. And I'm just so happy that they've agreed to be my friend for many decades. It goes into personal lives too. Look, guys, we're well over time as usual. I'm the one watching the clock. I'm being the efficient Brit, while you guys are just, mucking around with sharing over coffee. And I'm married. I've got a farm. Blah blah blah. So. Well, let's bring it to a close. What is the splash of the week? And that's a new term, splash of the week.
Ooh, I like it.
Splash of the week. It's Bruce's idea, actually. But so, okay, Bruce, what is your splash of the week?
Share lessons, not wounds.
God, you two are on some sort of new drug this week.
I'm out of my drink. I actually finished the drink. That's how I know we're over.
You two are just, I got it. You two are AI this week. This is not the real Bruce and Angie.
That's right. That's right. Well, that'd be
okay, good. Angie?
I'm going to say, because I, honest to God, was going to say exactly what he said, share for connection. But now I'm going to say, the next thing I would say is know your audience and build appropriate boundaries based on that audience.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic too. And
what's yours?
My more modest key takeaway is that leaders, you have a responsibility because you create cultures. Everything you do, everybody else follows.
Yes.
So look at yourselves and behave well.
I love it. Okay.
And on that note, hit subscribe, like, cheers. We'll see you next week. Bye.